Dummy Switch Pod.
Yes, sir.
Those unfiltered takes. We're here to give you those bog takes this week. How are you, Chris?
Oh, I can't complain, So it's always good when the Springboks win, so I can't complain. And yourself?
Same. I would characterize myself as being the same. I can't. I've got a few gripes and a few grudges with a few players still, but yeah, let's talk the box. I mean, coming into this one, we had lost four away straight to Wales, but I don't know. From my side, there was a sense of optimism.
Yeah, I think, even going into the game, you had the feeling that yes, of course, it will be a tight game. It's the North, weather conditions, things like that. But the optimism was there, definitely. And I think it was justified by the result at the end, which I believe should have been a bigger margin, so it should have been a bigger margin, but we'll take the win.
We'll take the win, and I think it was more on their part that there was a bit of nervousness, guys pulling alarms there in hotels.
Yeah.
Our boys are trying to sleep, man. Our boys are trying to sleep, but they're busy pulling alarms at the hotel. My thoughts and prayers just go out to those people who are, on their own trips. I imagine you go to see a wedding and you're getting kicked out at 4 a.m. because of a bok match. But either way, changes. I mean, if we talk about the box squad, it was just Murat added. We got news, and Corsi was out for this one. Unfortunately, Creel filling in.
The
less said, the better.
But we can start there.
Okay, let's just talk the other changes. I mean, you've got Willemse coming in for Leroux, which was, they've basically outlined it as rest. Yes. And the other injury is Jantjies in for Faf. Let's talk Creel. There's no shortage of wingers in South Africa.
Yes. There's absolutely no shortage of wingers. And I think we were lucky that we weren't found out and that Wales were they themselves, they pose threats as well, the Welsh, and we were lucky that on that wing we were that we were not exposed to put it bluntly, because the kicking
if Reece Zammit was on the other side.
Yes, the kicking game, he couldn't manage the high ball. He's not a winner. I don't know what, I think we've on this show, we've previously said, maybe the flanks, the forwards, maybe they need it, but even I don't think they even want him there because he's got the experience, he's got the caps, but I mean, damn, man, no, surely, there's other players that can, do the job.
We can start with Fassi.
Yeah, exactly. You could have put him. He's played wing, for the box. He can play fullback, already. So you already know that's somebody that can deal with the high ball, and he does offer you the kicking game. And on top of that, he can offer you, that extra X factor on attack when a guy like, for example, Francis Staden is deciding to take the game on and run the ball back, So I don't know. Look, I'm just glad I'm not the coach, but I completely disagree with that selection for that game, and, going into the coming weekend. No, he's not a winger. No, man. No, we're playing games.
In my opinion, he's not even a center. But that's another story for another day.
Yeah, we're playing games. Duan van der Merwe this weekend, he's licking his lips. He's thinking, hey, okay,
It's food.
It's, this is daily bread for him, so no, man.
If we go into it, I mean, just testing each other early, just some kicks, some physical confrontations, some double tackles, big hits. It was intense stuff. The crowd.
Yes.
all I could think of was the crowd was involved at some stages, maybe a bit too involved, kind of getting on the field. But I think if I have to think about, the Welsh chances, they had them early, Reece Zammit versus Mapimpi, but throughout, I don't necessarily think that they posed the threat that, I couldn't see them scoring a try. Whereas with the Boks, it just felt like it was going to be a matter of time at some stage.
Yeah. Look, I just, from that game, I just feel, look, it's good to see the crowds back in the stadiums. So we'll say that, but the Welsh were basically kept in that game by the passion and that extra, well, I won't say 16th man, we'll call it 17th man, in the crowd, because
does that count as a first cap for that guy? Does it count as a first cap? Got on the field.
He was on the field, right? He was on the field. So, I think that's really what kept the Welsh in the game. The Springboks had the territory, they had the dominance. I think a lot of the Springboks were just not clinical, and the positive from that is that they can build from it, and generally we've known, I think what we've seen, especially this year, is that they tend to start off slower than they gain that momentum. So I'm crossing my fingers and, not even crossing my fingers, I'm optimistic that they'll continue that momentum, for the 2 games that are left. And yeah, I think defensively, the Boks were very good, in making dominant hits. We're just unfortunate we didn't control possession well enough, and I think even in terms of those opportunities, we just spoke about the changes that were made. And for me, I just felt like a lot of that breakdown came from the indecisiveness of our number 9. There were some maybe half chances. There were some opportunities where different options could have been taken.
And faster options.
Yeah, faster options. The ball was quick enough. And I mean, even a classic example of it, when I talk about the decision-making of it, is when after Dialende made that break, as well, he just needed to pass. The man was on his shoulder. I don't know if he didn't hear him or he didn't see him or didn't believe that the man was there. But that, for me, highlighted the breakdown that we have at number 9 at the moment, and for me, that's concerning. Because Herschel, we've said it. We're not saying that he's a bad player, but he's not on song. He's not on form at all. And yeah, you just want to see sort of better decisions. If we had the opportunities, we should have put those guys away by the first half.
Yeah, I mean, in that first half, there was a loose pass from him that killed momentum, and it was one of those where we were camping on their line. I think at 9, at some stage, I would have even been happy if Tian Meyer stepped up off the bench. We needed someone. We needed someone. But I mean, I'm not necessarily in a state of panic because I know we've got 9s. It's just to select the 9.
Yeah.
Another guy that's licking his lips is Grant Williams, because I'm sure he has to feel like his time is coming soon.
Yeah. And rightly so. I back you up 100% on that, because no, man, it's not panic stations, because we do have the players in there. We just need to get the guys in the right places, and also make the tough calls. To say, listen, at the moment you're not it. So just take a step back, go and go work on certain things. And come back, and I mean, some of the pressure that came because of maybe the inaccuracies from our number 9, and at test level, you can only get away with that for so long, and we can't be developing guys at test level,
true.
Where winning is, where the only thing that we care about, the supporters, let's be honest, at the end of the day, is the win. How it's done, we can talk about that later. If the win is there, we're happy. But Springboks played well. They did, and they should have got more return for their effort. they deserved way more return, whether that be by their own undoing or the officials undoing. But we'll get into that.
The officials, if we talk officials, the main thing was they took away the maul from us for basically until the last try. They stripped it of, you've got several plans, obviously. Then and that's one of them. The officials stripped that away from the box. So it's nice to see that even though it did happen, we still found a way. We're not maul reliant.
Yes.
Something else I noticed is that we get advantage and we're kicking the ball away, and that again came from 9. And again, is it a thing of instruction, or is it a thing of him doing it by his own accord? Other things, Willemse, unlucky for him.
Unlucky.
But then again, Francois Steyn showing us, he's the man to have in Wales, having not lost there.
He's never lost in Wales, and look, Willemse is definitely unlucky. It's unfortunately he's a casualty of the game. And at the same time, you look at it the other side, you say, okay, if Steyn didn't come on, if Willemse didn't get injured, would we have gotten that result? We'll never know, but it does raise that question, because at the time the Springboks were under pressure, when that injury did happen, and then I think that was really, especially in the first half, that was really one of the last times that the Boks were under that sort of pressure. And it was cheap pressure that we were allowing, if I can call it that. We were allowing ourselves to be put under pressure cheaply from
build-up of penalties with Ox. In the end, I don't even think the first one wasn't a yellow, which they just did. The second one, barely a yellow. But again, it was just that thing of cheap pressure. He had to give it.
Yeah. Look, he had to give it. But I think as well, the Boks really did handle it. They handled it better than Bok teams of the past. I think they showed some good character, good resolve. I think everybody really knows what this team is about. And even look, I have to say it as well, is that with Francois Steyn, the times where I questioned the reason why he was in the team, and I'm happy to eat the humble pie, and say on more than one occasion I've seen he's added that value, and I'm happy to eat that.
And the enthusiasm he adds,
yes,
he's adding a certain level of enthusiasm that, especially after the games we're seeing. You saw it after the New Zealand game, and we're seeing it after this one.
He's amped, and he's savoring his opportunities, because he knows that he, considering his age, he doesn't know how long he'll be around. And I think just a player like that, all the young players that are coming through, doesn't matter where you're playing, what team you play for, that's the sort of enthusiasm you need to have, for the game and just for how you play and enjoy it. Because it seems like when he's enjoying his game, he can do things that, you'd forget that he's 35 or 30 or 33. You'd forget that. You'd think he's still, in his 20s. But yeah, man, it's really good to see. It's really good to see.
Yeah, it's good to see, and it's also good to see that he's no longer, how do you say, he's no longer a talking point in terms of where maybe he was in his first go around with the Boks, some journalists being unkind. I think at that time, we're winning now, so there's nicer things to be said. I think even with in terms of coaching, there's nicer coaches to be had right now than first time round for him.
True. That's very true. But I think as well, it just shows the environment is right. But then the question now is, I have to ask this, is you can't ignore the Rusty factor. I don't think it's how can I put it? The composure that the team had you didn't see panic on even when, they weren't continuing the opportunities and Wales were getting their penalties and trying to, just stretch away. You didn't see that panic, that, for example, when in Australia, against Australia,
they just heard it was the walkie-talkie, they heard it, his voice was soothing them. Maybe it was missing in Australia there, but the voice, it was just soothing them. Maybe even at halftime, that's what they needed to hear. I also think Reina also, I mean, if we're talking about players with impact, I think him coming on, I did say that anyone needed to come on at 9, but I think he added a spark that, it was needed in this game for the Boks. I don't know, myself, not necessarily a big fan of his, so I'll eat humble pie there.
Yeah, I was about to say the same, I've had my reservations, as well. But, I saw a couple of weeks when the Boks were in France, they were watching him, and he scored a banger of a try, and I just feel like if we're talking about in the squad right now, he's the man that's in form, and he's been playing that side. Give him a go. I understand that maybe there's processes and protocols that they have internally that they want to follow from a selection point of view, but you can't ignore that. You can't ignore what Reinach brings. But at the same time, I think we've also had this question where we said, is Herschel Yankees the kind of guy you want to bring on when you're chasing a game, or when you're trying to win the game? And on the evidence of it, I'd say no, because when Reinach came on, he's when Wales tried to relieve pressure, put us back in our 22, his little break, he got back, he got that ball, beat a man, beat a couple of more guys on the touchline, and effectively that run of his is what led to the penalty that led to the line out and to the Maul try. And that's impact. That's, full points,
I think we're going to see a situation like 39th minute, like how they changed the front row. Reina coming on just before halftime. I think I'll be surprised if Yanchis plays 41 minutes, put it that way.
Yeah. But talking about front row, before you go on, like I must say, I think, the starting front row, Trevor, Bongi, Ox, I think they were immense, from just their work rate, number one, around the park defensively, they carries, Ox, we say Ox maybe, okay, but unlucky, in terms of that yellow card. But and then also when he came back from the yellow card in that second half, he gave away a penalty. It is just slightly inaccurate, but do not overall, you got to give those guys easily 8, 9 out of 10, because they were laying the foundation and they were about to turn those screws, so you have to take your hats off to the starting front row and then the finishing front row as well that came on to do the job. We're blessed. We have to be grateful for the talent that we have. But at the same time, I think we also need to keep an eye on the future, especially in that front row, because injuries happen. A lot of things can happen, and we don't want to find ourselves now where we're back at square one again. We have to sort of build on this. Yes, we've got 2 quality front rows. We need to get another 2, or at least another 1. It's in the wings,
Yeah, no, they've definitely sorted out that well. We often moan and complain, but that's one thing the coaching set up. I mean, in Mbonambi, going back to the first half, there was one time where he had a big tackle, and next thing it's Bok penalty. Next thing, moving up the field. So from a situation where we're on the back foot in our own 22, we're in an attacking situation on their 5 meter. Fine, nothing came of it, but that's the type of thing that, it's just quality, and it shows how far the team has come.
Yeah, and they really look like a championship team.
Yeah,
defensively. It's just strange because I'm trying to understand what was the issue against Australia defensively and then, moving to New Zealand against New Zealand, and then even now where
that one, it was just, you've just got to write that one off.
Yeah, but I mean, it's strange, if you know what I mean. Like, and we did say that Australia sort of first leg of that tour was strange, and it was strange, and hence why I say the Rossi effect, maybe potentially, But again, it's just championship team. Our locks were working hard. Our loose forwards, Kwagga, I feel like Kwagga was big. Sia as well. Even
Sia on halftime. I just want to note on halftime, the penalty that brought us within 3. That was just from Sia. That was just great work. Mapimpi was rolling away, and he reached over Mapimpi and got the ball.
Yeah.
So for me, that just showed, Sia, he was making big hits, and then that's, for me, that's a pivotal moment in the game right on halftime. So loose forwards as well. I think we've got the right mix for the most part.
Yeah, we do. And even if, for example, like maybe a guy like Dwayne doesn't have a barnstorming game, but just him being there, the set of the maul, when the maul sets on him, it's always it's as strong as Thor's hammer, man. Nobody can stop that thing. And just the calmness that he brings, the work rate, the physicality is just too much to deal with. And then we get to 9. For me, that's when it starts sort of breaking down. And then to his credit, Pollard, for me, I feel we're starting to see a different side of him, from a option taking. Maybe his confidence is getting back, because we've hung him out to dry a lot of times on the show, and rightly so, because he wasn't on song, and there's certain touches that he showed for me where I was just like, oh, okay, he identifying the space, putting the ball on the boot, beating the rush defense.
Yeah, he was being a bit more risky.
Yeah, and that was so good to see, and again, our center pairing, I think maybe Delenda, okay, maybe from a defensive point of view, he had that impact, but
he had that great line break that,
as well.
You make that line break, maybe 8 out of 10 times they score that, but this was part of the 2 where they just couldn't manage to get it together. But
to convert,
center pairing, no complaints for me.
No, except that you have to you can't ignore the quality of Lukhanyo. If we're being honest, if we're looking around, right now in World Rugby, who's a better 13 than him? We're talking right now. I don't think there's anybody that's better, from technically as well. Defensively, the way there's so many the reads that he was making, his ability to get over the ball, his decision making, his organization as well. I think, he's just because he's not from New Zealand or let me rather put it this way, because he's from South Africa, a lot of the people with their own opinions won't consider him, and for me, that's good, because let him fly under the radar, because let them underestimate him at their own peril, because he's that silent killer. He really is.
Yeah, and you also want him to stay at the Sharks, so.
Of course.
Yeah.
That's our captain.
We can just talk. For me, the last talking point for me was just that you could just feel that bulk pressure. And, that was just it. You could just feel eventually it's just going to be too much. The fan coming on, I don't think they would have scored. I don't think that would have changed things. I just think, bulk pressure was too much.
Yeah, I don't believe that they would have scored. I think by the time that Liam Williams was reaching for the ball, the fact of the matter for me is that he didn't have to run. He didn't have to jump over the player. He was already on the outside of where not the player. because he's not a player, that guy, you know. You don't have to jump over that fan, you know. He was already on the outside, close to the touchline, you know, and he had to reach back for the ball. The cross-cover defense was there. So, you know, they can cry and speculate all they want. Perhaps maybe it would have resulted in maybe in additional pressure, and they would have gone back for the penalty in any case, you know. So I don't think that really had an effect, you know. But the one question that I have for you, you know, and I'm going a bit back now to the try that was Mapimpi's try, you know, try or no try, Quarters.
Look, I myself have been guilty of not retreating, you know, in that area for the kick. I'll just say I'm happy there was no TMOs in those games. Otherwise, they would have caught me out. But I don't know that one. I think it's a try.
Yeah,
I think it's a try. But if we want to dig down into the law book, verse 5, chapter 7, then it probably wasn't a try. You know what I mean? So, I mean...
But then here's my other question to that. If that was New Zealand versus Wales.
If it's New Zealand versus Wales, it doesn't even go to TMO. This is try.
Yeah. And that's how I feel, you know, is that, like, you know, if you want to go drill down to the letter of the law, you can probably find that maybe there's a what you call it, a gap or in there where you can say, you know, there's opportunity to say there's no try, you know. But then in terms of the fluidity of the game and, you know, how it unfolded, those guys didn't really have an effect. They didn't have an effect on the people catching the ball. You know, the pressure was coming from guys that were coming from an onside position.
Yeah.
You know, and for me, that's that.
But
that
it's again, it's like that thing. It's like that thing that we were talking about where, you know, when the clubs were playing, when there's a thing of the ball is available there, but the guy just didn't roll away because he wasn't affecting play. But the referee still called, you're not rolling away.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there are moments like this where things aren't affecting play, but they're still going to call it just because.
Yeah, exactly. But the sad thing for me here is that the referee is a New Zealander, and I'm thinking, you know, is this because of the last game or what? You know, I know I'm clutching at straws here, but I mean, the thing is, it just feels as if there's a general consensus in world rugby and the referees that, you know, our game needs to be looked at with the microscope. You know, even in that game, there's so many inconsistencies where you felt that, no, man, the Welsh players were coming in from the side, you know, but then we get penalized for coming in the side. You know, when the Welsh player just has his hands on the ball for 1-2 seconds, he gets the penalty. With us, you know, he's still trying to see, and, you know, like, no, I didn't see it, or whatever it is. But yeah, man, it's just, that's why you just have to give this team, the Springbok team, a lot of credit, because they're always up against it, you know, and I think that's how they like it, when they know that they're up against it, and they pull it through, you know, they pull it through.
Yeah, let's talk next week, or next game, sorry. Front row, same front row.
Yeah.
We've got to change there. Mostert coming in for Diaga. Loose trio stays the same.
It's 50 up for him, so you're not well deserved. From somebody at the Bulls, where the Bulls didn't want him, you know. So 50 caps for the Boks. You know, whoever was at the Bulls that time, oh man, we need to find whoever that person was that was at the Bulls that let that.
Hey, my man, we know who was there. It's the guy that was storing money in the fridges and Japanese clothing companies. So that's all I'll say. They let go of a few good players. Yanchis at 9 and 10. Good to see Elton start. I felt when he came on, he also, he played his part. Good to see him getting this opportunity. And then the rest is the same, except for Leroux coming in for Damian Willemse. Note that the bench is particularly strong this week. We've got that front row, De Jager, Visser, Reinach, Pollard, Steyn. Very strong bench.
Yeah. I think you can't really, that team selection, I think my only question mark would be at 9 to say, okay, but I think at the same time is at some point he's going to play himself. Either he's going to play himself in, and cement his name in the team, or he's going to play himself out, So I think Herschel does know that he is under somewhat pressure, where even if it's not.
Yeah, you saw they flew Aaron Smith over this week. We've also got the budget. We can fly over.
Yeah, exactly.
Fly over someone. I'm sure there's a few guys who they're making sure their phones are charged. They're just waiting in South Africa.
They're waiting, because man. And then maybe the Vili selection. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say because we know what he's done before and we know what he's not done before. And I don't know because Scotland, I watched them against Australia. Scotland are a different kind of Scotland. They're not the Scotland of old, They're not the Scotland of old. They've grown, in terms of how they play, attacking, they're dangerous.
Steyn is more direct,
Yes.
Francois Steyn is more direct. We saw him run it back down the Welsh throat. We saw him, he went back in your face and he made those meters, he made those runs, and he also kept them thinking.
Yes.
Billy Leroux, not so much.
Yeah, man. I don't know. I think even him, it's really an opportunity. It's a fresh opportunity for him. I think let's be positive about it and say it's a new opportunity. It's a new game, even for Herschel. It's a new game. It's a new opportunity for them to showcase. Why they need to continue. Because. Like I say, Scotland is a different animal. Even defensively, they're a different kind of team. They almost watching their defensive display against Australia. I was reminded almost of, had a bit of a Springbok flavor. Where I was just like, hey, and these guys are freaking. They got the dogs with bones in their mouth. They just getting up, they're going, they're hitting hard, they're tackling guys back. Australia didn't expect that. I don't believe that they expected what the Scots threw at them, So Vinny's got to bring his bag of tricks and he's got to execute. None of this, running away, running from the side, scared to take the ball and whatnot. Because best believe, Finn Russell, he was in the part of the British and Irish Lions. We know what they're going to do whenever they get an opportunity for kickoffs. They watched against New Zealand. We know they're going to target our fullback. They're going to target our right wing, Jesse Creel, as well. And they're also going to put pressure on Herschel because they know that in the breakdown, if you've seen, if you try and counteract, because it's taking so much time to try and get that ball out, he's going to knock it on, or he's going to be rushed and try to get a box kick over that's not going to go far. Put us under pressure, give away a cheap penalty, or he's going to kick it directly out. So those 3 pressure points in our backline, they're going to be on those. I'd be surprised if they're not going to try, and probe and see what if they can get anything there, and get into our house. It's going to happen. So those guys, they need to bring their game. Especially those 3, 9, 14, 15. they must actually even, whip out a move with 9 foot just to shut us up, just to shut us up, scrum, on the right-hand side. I mean, we haven't seen that from the Springboks. When last did you see a 9-14-15 on
a nice short side off a scrum? Hopefully we'll see that kind of initiative. Right now, if I'm Sanele Nohamba's agent, I'm looking for cheap flights to Scotland. That's all I'll say. Yeah, you're more optimistic than I am. But yeah, let's hope our boys get a full night's sleep this time.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm going Bok win. Sorry, any last comments from you?
No, I was gonna say, but I feel like this is going to be an exciting game.
Yeah, definitely.
It's been a lot. Like we haven't said that about a Springbok Scotland game,
Yeah.
But I feel like this is going to be an exciting game. The Scots, they can play. I mean, Ali Price there at 9, he was the scrum half for the British and Irish Lions. He's got some magic. Let's not underestimate the Scottish team. They're at home as well. They coached against the Boks in British Irish Lions. They would have their own ideas of how to beat the Boks. Maybe that they didn't get, their ideas weren't accepted at the Lions, so they're going to, try and put them out now, so I wouldn't underestimate the Scots. I feel like this is going to be an exciting game. The Springboks do definitely need to be switched on, even defensively. They need to nullify Finn Russell, and apply pressure. I think our scrum, we've got a weapon there, so we can put pressure on them through the pack, and we should come away with this game.
Yeah, quietly confident.
Yeah.
And that's it from us this week. Dummy Switch Pod out.